What is up, everybody? My name is BobaTalks, and a lot of people have been asking me to give my thoughts on the Iron Fist series that came out not so long ago, and I am a bit late with this, but I only just recently finished Season 1, and I just felt like I did have to make this video because I do have a lot of thoughts about it. Now, this is kind of a review. This is like my thoughts overall, my complaints, what I liked, what I didn't like. Now, is this show worth watching? Yes, completely yes. Every TV show, in my opinion, is definitely worth a chance. I mean, I really don't like it when critics say this is garbage or terrible garbage. Or, for example, what I'm reading right here, I just googled it, The Guardian, 4 days ago, Iron Fist is a terrible show. It's not terrible. I don't like it when critics shit on things. My biggest problem is a lot of work goes into these shows. It wasn't done just like, okay, we don't give a fuck about this show. People tried. And it is definitely worth a watch. It's interesting. I get how sometimes you can't get into things, but Iron Fist is still a good show. It's just, it was the weakest of the Marvel TV shows. For those of you who are wondering, for me, it goes Daredevil, and then this is joint second place, Luke Cage / Jessica Jones. But if I had to say it, I'd say number 2, Jessica Jones, and then number 3, Luke Cage. And then Iron Fist, unfortunately, falls in number 4. Now, I did try and think, I heard all these criticisms about the show, but as I said, you should always make your own opinion about a show, rather than these shitty critics poison your mind before you even go and watch a film, which we see all the time with cinema films. It drives me insane when I hear a friend or somebody say, "Oh, I don't know about that show. I've heard it's really bad." That's the effing reviewer saying that, not you. Don't let it corrupt your thinking into if you should go and see the film or not, or the TV show. Just watch it and make your own mind up. Now, Iron Fist was good, but there's a lot of problems with this show that I feel like the other shows just didn't have. I think Finn Jones, who plays Danny Rand, did do a good job, but the writing on this show is where it really falls short. Now, there were some episodes that were interesting, but the things that got me, and I want to skip to the end so bad, because the thing that made me decide how much I was annoyed with the show was the last 10 minutes of the last episode. I think the idea of this show was good, but as I was saying a second ago, the writing fell short in so many places. For example, the villains of the show, at the beginning of the show, Danny left Kunlun because he wanted to come back and be Danny Rand, and you kind of get introduced to Harold, and you think, okay, so is he going to be, the kind of deceptive, sort of familiar family member who becomes an evil overlordy kind of figure? But then you kind of learn it's the Hand, and honestly, that is just a bit too much playing around, even though it does develop into Madame Gao and, the Hand. And then it just eventually swaps over to Harold again at the end. It's like, I do get it. The story was good because you needed some answers for his family, which we did learn with Harold towards the end, especially with Madame Gao. But I just felt like the way it was, displayed throughout all the episodes. It's like, okay, here's a bit of paint, splat it there, instead of painting the picture. But that said, I don't want to discredit this show so much because I did like it. But saying all these things, I don't want to put it across to you guys that I really hate this show, because that isn't the case. There were lots of things I liked about it, but I'm just trying to get rid of the things that weren't so good, weren't so great, and were kind of lousy. Now, I've heard a lot of people talk about the fighting of the show. It could have been better, for sure. In some of the other shows, the Marvel shows, it was bloody brilliant. The fighting, I do agree, it wasn't up to par of what we were all expecting, I guess. Especially with Danny Rand being the Iron Fist. It was just, a lot of the time, a flip kick over and stuff like that. But I did enjoy it, but it wasn't as interesting as, Daredevil, for example. And this leads me on to my next point. With Daredevil, Jessica Jones, even Luke Cage, which I wouldn't say was so like this, but with Daredevil, for example, I was left with many episodes thinking like, oh my god, shit just went down. I'm gonna have to stay up an hour later and be tired the next day because I have to see what happens next, or at least watch the next 15 to 20 minutes of the next episode. Not once did that happen with Iron Fist. It was very bland throughout. There wasn't any call to action for me to watch the next episode. I just thought, well, okay, maybe a little bit of shit went down at the end of this, but it can wait. And that's the biggest complaint I see about the show. It's hard to get into, and there's not a lot of demand to pull you back. And I think that is due to the wavering storylines, how it goes left to right, and then you think it's going one way, and then it's like, okay, but that it goes that way, and it's kind of unfulfilling. Where when things happen on Daredevil or Jessica Jones, you felt that impact, and you know exactly where it was going. You may not have expected some things, but you knew you were in for a ride. But with Iron Fist, it was kind of disappointing moment after disappointing moment, and And then when you did get something, it was just like, well, is that it? Is okay. Now, I do really think Finn Jones has potential for this character. As I said, I really like the Iron Fist in general as Finn Jones and what they've created in this Marvel world. But I really do hope they bring it back with the Defenders. But there are just some things that, I think I blame it on the writing for his character being the points of criticism for Finn Jones. But overall, I think he has it within him to be a really good Iron Fist. I mean, seriously, I think going forward, if they do the right things, that is, we won't have any of these problems to come. Now, as for Colleen Wing, I really did enjoy her character. I think she was a great actor. I think she was a great love interest for Danny. Yet again, I don't necessarily think it is the character's faults that make this show less interesting. It's just the storyline in general kind of lets everything down in this show, and that is where it gets me on to Joy. I really enjoyed Joy's character. I think she was probably the best actor out of all of them. I took her the most seriously. I connected with her the most. But god damn it, that last scene with Davos and Joy, I can't even begin to tell you how much that annoyed me. So if you remember, in the last 10 minutes of the last episode, we saw Davos basically say to Joy that we need to kill Danny Rand because he's the cause of your problems, and that's where they started. But this was so stupid. I feel like this demonstrates the absolute insanity of the writing sometimes. Right, I get maybe with Davos, he's wanted to be the Iron Fist his whole life, and with all the conflicting beliefs that he and Danny has, because Danny comes from a world where he's used to living in that civilization and he was called back to it. But Davos, he's pure like monk raised. He has his morals and values that he was raised on, and he has a lot of conflicting issues with Danny because of that, and he wanted to bring him back to Kunlun. So yeah, maybe I can jump on board that he just completely changed his mind. It's like, right, let's kill Danny. But that was still a bit of a stretch for me, and I didn't like that. So to set that up for season 2, it was just disappointing. But even further, when Joy said, "Oh, I'm listening," like basically saying, okay, I'm listening, I'm on board to see what you have planned for why we should kill Danny. What the fuck? That was so stupid. Literally not so long before that, she was saying to Harold, like, oh, why did you set Danny up? Why this, that, and the other? Like, Danny is good. Like, throughout the whole season, she believes in Danny. Sure, he was a bit annoying, like he didn't attend meetings, and she was out of the loop a lot of the time, so she was left confused with Danny. And sure, when Danny entered the lives of everyone, shit went south for a lot of people. But for Joy, who played this nice, sweet character, who rekindled with Danny, her long-lost friend, and then to, like, seek out Harold by saying, like, why did you do this? He's innocent. And then for her to just be, like, at the end scene with Davos, like, I'm listening, right, let's go randomly, completely change my character into, like, something that I'm not, and something that I was not portrayed for the whole season. And yes, I get it. They just basically put, right, everything when Danny entered her life, basically, it turned it south for her. She gained her father, she lost her father. A lot of shit went south, the company and everything. But no, I truly believe the Joy that we saw throughout the majority of the season would not have made that decision in being on board with Davos to kill Danny Rand. That is just so stupid, and it completely and utterly took me out of this show for once and for all, and her character. Now, I don't mean to step on anyone's toes if you really, really love this show. I still really enjoyed it. There were a lot of things I enjoyed about it. It was still an interesting show for me to watch, and I definitely wanted to watch it, but there was no compelling moments that made me want to continue to watch. The characters just changed so much, Joy being the best example. And then, obviously, Ward. I really liked Ward's character, but there was quite a few moments where he just changed from, like, this really dickish person who was such a prick to Danny and basically didn't want anything to do with him, and then to the last scene where he's like, oh, thank you, I really needed someone to come along with me. It's just, I feel they didn't know what they were doing. Like, they changed their minds several times throughout the season about where these characters were going. I don't know, I could say a lot more, and I probably should, but I don't want to drag this on for absolutely ages. I think you've got the gist of the show from my point of view. It is interesting. It's another character that we get to learn about. It's another character that we're going to see again in the Defenders, and we'll most likely get a season 2. But, man, I really feel like the directors, the writers went and stuff like that, completely changing their minds at some points and not maintaining enough interest or what the fuck moments, just really took away from it. And honestly, I think my biggest annoyance with the whole show was Joy's random change of heart at the end, listening to Davos. I can kind of get on board with Davos's motives. I still think that's a bit stupid considering they're meant to be best mates. If they've grown up together with each other their whole lives, basically, most of their lives anyway, and now he's just throwing in the towel. But let alone Joy, that's just stupid for a character. And if I'm just not looking forward to them playing this out in season 2. This show was a massive disappointment, I'm not going to lie, but there were things I did like about it. I do think the cast were good. I liked Claire Temple's role in it. As I said, I like Finn Jones. I just think some of the directions, like Colleen and Finn, and even Ward and Joy, they just kind of had stupid storylines at certain points that didn't make sense, or how I felt like the character was gonna go. For the most part, I did like the Hand storyline. I thought Madame Gao was very interesting, but I'll say it again, there wasn't just any gripping moments like, where you do feel compelled to watch the next episode. I definitely do not agree with some of the scores, like places like Rotten gave it, I think something as low as, lower than 20%. That's stupid. I don't normally like giving ratings, but I would say this is barely a 7 out of 10. I'd say a 6.5, maybe nearing a 7. So it's definitely worth watching. It's interesting. It's another Marvel character. It's not shit by any means, but there are just so many problems that you think, just why did this happen? Why isn't this more interesting? But I still appreciate everything that it has to offer. So thinking back on what I've recorded, this is more of a rant video. I do understand. I think that's just because I expected and hoped for so much more. Like, as I said, I enjoyed this show. I didn't feel like hardly any of these feelings towards any of the other shows, and this wasn't impacted by any of the critic reviews. As I said at the beginning of this video, that we should never influence your opinions. But to sum it up, it is good TV. It is definitely worth watching. It's definitely worth watching over a bunch of shows that are out at the minute. But for what it is disappointing with its brothers and sisters like Daredevil and Jessica Jones TV shows. But should you watch it? Yes. I definitely think you should, and I just hope it gets better. Like, honestly, it has so much promise. I definitely think they need to change a lot of things up. I'm really upset about the whole Joy thing. Like, that was just stupid. That's my biggest critique of this. Like, that last scene where she's with Davos on that dinner table, or wherever they are. Damn, that was just dumb. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was very different to what I normally do. I don't normally rant like this. But let me know what you thought of Iron Fist. Was it, like, do you agree with me? Was it, like, still a good TV show, but there were so many things wrong with it? Or do you completely disagree with me? Do you think it was amazing? Do you think it was the best Marvel TV show? Do you think it was better than Luke Cage? Do you think it was better than Jessica Jones? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, as always, guys. But if you did get this far in the video, I'd really appreciate it if you left a like, as it really does show your support for the channel. But apart from that, everybody, that is what I'm going to say about this today. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.